Before you write a character analysis, you need to have something to say. You need to figure out some things about the character and have some evidence to back up your assertions. Let me ask you this. How do you figure out what a person is like in real life? Like if a new person shows up at your work, or a new student is added to your class. First, you notice external things like age, or gender, or cultural expressions, or how they're dressed, or how they wear their hair, or how they hold their mouth. Do they smile or not? Or what do their eyes do when they smile? Their posture. All kinds of things. And then you listen to what they say and how they say it. They might be ranting about some bonehead driving too slow in front of them that made them late. Or they might be talking about the weekend's horse race or a hospital fundraiser. You might see them offer a piece of gum to another person or roll their eyes at a joke. You might notice someone else rolling their eyes at them or smiling eagerly while they're talking. A friend might tell you later how nice they were, or overbearing, or witty. Pretty much every time you encounter someone new, you start making all kinds of decisions about who this person is. And you do it in all these ways, without ever really thinking about it. When you are reading a text, and you come across a character, you do the same things. The difference here is that nobody asks you to write about a person you meet for the first time, but English teachers will often ask you to write about a literary character. You will need to look at what the character says and does, and consider what the narrator and other characters say about them and how they react to them. All this is evidence, and you're going to need evidence. Here's what you're going to need to do. Make a chart with traits in one column and evidence in a second. Then as you read and reread, you will fill out that chart. You sort of do both these things at the same time, filling out the traits and the evidence while you read. Make sure that you are open to change what you call a trait as you continue to collect evidence. Early in the story, you might think that Tom Sawyer is crazy, but as you keep reading, you decide that imaginative is a better word to describe him, or whatever. Now let's go a little deeper into this evidence. Like when meeting a new person, when you first look at a character, you might notice some things before others. When it comes to a character in a story, what you're noticing is what the author probably wants you to notice first. These are the things the author will be building on as the story continues. Remember the first time you met Severus Snape? You made some judgments. Some of them carried through all 7 novels. Some of them fell by the wayside, and many were clarified as you went on. Authors don't tell us everything about a character. They just tell us the stuff they want us to know when they want us to know it. So assume that what they are telling you has some function or purpose in the story. Much of it will be just trying to tell us who this character is. So you might get some physical description. Now here's a caution. These things can sometimes point to character traits that are important, but they aren't usually important in and of themselves. So a character might be thin, but we probably wouldn't call this a character trait, because it might not be about their personality. But sometimes this kind of thing can point to something deeper, like a complete lack of patience, empathy, or morality. Or we might have a character that's quite large and has 8 legs, and we probably won't call these character traits unless they point to a character that can't get enough, that consumes others, that takes and takes and takes for their own benefit. So physical characteristics can point to deeper character traits. When it comes to what characters say and do, well, also try to look beyond the surface of these things. If a guy proudly shows you pictures of his family from Disneyland on his phone in the first few minutes of meeting you, it might mean more than he likes photography or Disneyland, or even that he has a family and that he went to Disneyland. It might mean that his family is a high priority in his life. Or it might show that he wants to be thought of as having a family that's a high priority in his life. Peel the layers back from physical appearance and actions to find out what could be at the center. When you are looking for evidence for a character analysis, you don't want to miss the basics. Here are the basics. What are their relationships with others? Not just are they a son or a mother, but are they friends with a lot of people? Do they hate their boss, and why? Do they always compete with their brother? What's going on there? What do they say and do? And what does this show about the kind of person they are? What motivates them, or what do they want out of life? These basic questions will take you a long way in most of your character analyses. But there are some more questions that you could consider with some characters that you find in literature. Do the physical characteristics tell us anything about who the character is? Do they have internal conflicts, and what do these say about who they are? Are they changing in some way as the story progresses? And here are some even more sophisticated questions if you think you and the character are up for it. What can you deduce from the way the character speaks? Like, what kind of words do they use and how do they put them together? Do they speak differently to different people under different circumstances? What do character foils tell us about them? Remember, the foil sets off a major character by contrast, so you are looking for these contrasts in the foil character. Consider the author's purpose for writing the story. How does the character serve this purpose? The character will likely be the way he or she needs to be to help the author achieve his or her purposes. And what is the point of view of the story? If it is in the first person, you're finding out a lot of things about the character because everything is being communicated from their perspective. But be careful. Like with a real human being, characters will create their own reality, and they can be lying to you, or even deep into self-deception. The narrative perspective could be first person, told by a minor character. This kind of character too has their own perspective, and their comments shouldn't be taken as absolute truth either. With third person narrators, you can get a truer picture of a character that you are analyzing, but not always. Some of these narrators can lack objectivity. Flannery O'Connor's narrators are rarely to be trusted. So that's the beginning of how you would analyze a character in a poem or a story or a movie. But sometimes you'll be asked to put it all together in a paragraph or an essay. That video is coming and you don't want to miss it, so you might as well subscribe. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.